Oh dear, the relations between the United States and Britain have cooled since Brexit. We all know this. And even with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, Joe Biden does not warm up, as can be seen again in the topic of cluster munitions for Ukraine. At least the US president was coming over for tea. The fact that Joe Biden, right at the beginning of a short visit, praised the special relationship between the United States and Great Britain as rock solid was more than just a diplomatic phrase. The US president did not want to raise any doubts about the special relationship between the countries. "I could not have met a better friend and ally," he said. Well, there were widespread barriers in Regent's Park, constant flights of the distinctive Chinook helicopters over the city, and a massive police presence, even for Londoners who are far from politics. It was hard to miss on Monday that the US president was once again visiting. Before his visit to King Charles III at Windsor Castle, Joe Biden flattered the Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, with this saying of the no closer friend and more reliable ally than Great Britain. Well, the talks between the two heads of government, which lasted just 40 minutes, revolved around the upcoming NATO summit, or from our perspective now, the running NATO summit, and the best possible support for Ukraine. Everything in the Downing Street garden, Sunak spoke of a rock-solid relationship as well between the two partners, could not hide clear differences of the opinion. Biden had disturbed the British the day before with an interview on CNN. Ukraine could not yet be considered for membership in the Western Alliance. In doing so, Biden is not at least taking into account German concerns that NATO could be drawn directly into the war. So he's on Germany's side there. And instead, in his interview, the president spoke of security guarantees for Ukraine a la Israel, one of the United States' closest military allies. This concept has been discussed for weeks between the largest NATO countries, Great Britain, France, and Germany. Washington had previously refused to support British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace's candidacy for the post of NATO Secretary General. Instead, the Americans urged the incumbent Jens Stoltenberg to extend his term of office again until autumn 2024. And there is speculation in London that the current EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen could then switch from one executive chair in Brussels to the other, because that's what Biden wanted. British military experts point to von der Leyen's unsuccessful tenure as defense minister. On the other hand, the ex-soldier Wallace enjoys an excellent reputation among experts. But even despite that, political London is slightly snubbed about the American president, commenting with British understatement on the alleged coolness with which Biden cultivates this special relationship between the old allies. The American with Irish roots is therefore sometimes branded as an England hater by the British press. Biden has never made a secret of the fact that he believes Brexit was a mistake. The fact that former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson sought to be close to Donald Trump for a long time is likely to have increased his distrust of the British Conservatives. And shortly before the start of the NATO summit in Lithuania, the US and Great Britain vowed their close relationship. But, well, Joe Biden made this stopover in London on his way to the Lithuanian capital of Vilnius. And Biden met Sunak at his seat of government on Downing Street. And according to Sunak's office, both agreed to further strengthen the partnership between the two countries and to maintain their support for Ukraine. "We are two of the strongest allies in this alliance," is what Sunak told the British news agency PA at the start of the meeting. He knows that the USA and Great Britain want to do everything to strengthen transatlantic security, but not trade. Biden described the relationship, as I said, as rock solid and said he could not find a better friend and ally. The US President and the British Prime Minister have seen each other several times in recent months. The Brit was visiting Washington just a month ago. We only meet once a month, is a joke Biden told upon arrival at Downing Street, according to a reporter traveling from the United States, and pictures showed Biden and Sunak together in the garden. They discussed a range of bilateral and global issues at this meeting, which only lasted 40 minutes though, so couldn't have been that much. But according to British information, it was also about progress in deepening economic cooperation in the areas of critical minerals, energy security and artificial intelligence. The most important topic, however, was probably the now running NATO summit. And cooperation between Washington and London is still close, particularly in the military area. The US decision to send controversial cluster munitions to Ukraine caused upset. I said that in the beginning of the video already. And Sunak publicly spoke out against the move on Saturday, but without criticizing the ally directly. According to the PA news agency, Sunak used the conversation with Biden to clarify Britain's position on the issue once again. And the meeting was about Britain's rejection of this type of weapon, as Sunak spokesman Max Blaine confirmed. First of all, it must be said that it was a difficult decision for the United States, and because cluster munitions have been outlawed since 2010 by a lot of other countries. In this context, London's obligations were discussed not to produce or use cluster munitions and to advise against their use. And Biden then went on to Windsor Castle, where he was honored in a ceremony by King Charles III and was received by him. And during his visit to the UK, Biden wanted to meet the king. It was the first meeting between the two since the coronation in May. Biden's wife Jill attended the coronation as a guest. Conservative British media had viewed Joe Biden's absence at the time as disapproving. However, no US president has ever attended a British coronation. But Biden was received with military honors at Windsor Castle. Biden and the king greeted each other with a handshake in front of this quite historic backdrop. And according to the White House, the two wanted to talk at the meeting about mobilizing funds for the expansion of clean energy in developing countries. Protecting the climate is an issue that Charles has been campaigning for quite a long time. And Biden's flying visit of barely a day on the way to Vilnius was the fifth meeting with Sunak in as many months. The US-affiliated former investment banker has largely allayed the serious concerns in the Democratic administration about Brexit, which Biden called a geostrategic disaster, by signing the Windsor Treaty or the Windsor Framework on Northern Ireland with the EU. From the president's point of view, the beautiful TV pictures of his meeting with the king in Windsor should be more important this time. After all, he's facing the fight for his second term in the coming year. But the most interesting part of it once again was there never, like on the first flying meeting in Northern Ireland, then on Sunak's visit in the United States, and now once again, there is absolutely no talk about a US-UK trade deal. And the reason for this is especially Brexit. Because the Americans, and not only Biden, the American administration is not very fond of Brexit. And Biden is not the only one thinking that Brexit was a mistake in the United States. And you must not forget how strong the Irish community is in the US. And all the promises, and especially with the US trade deal, the Brexiteers made. Well, you see, unicorns cannot be caught. But nevertheless, we will see how this will continue. And I quickly want to remind everyone, because it's still new that I renewed my live streams, that next Sunday at 6 p.m. CET, there will be another live stream. So if you want to take part live and be active in the chat, just put down the time in your calendar. And if you want to see something else right now, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.